Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salam ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. So when I passed you out as a map, I passed you out a map right now, and you see over here on the map, you see the Muslim camp, you see the Quraysh camp, and you see the Khalid ibn Walid's flank, right? And the Muslim archers are on that mountain. Something which I want you to notice is that there's a little bit of a slither in the middle. They use that to their advantage so that not 3,000 of the Muslims or 3,000 of the non-Muslims can attack them from this side. So again, I want to apologize in advance. I didn't have much time to prepare this, so I'll be looking at my paper a lot and talking kind of fast because this is a lot of pages and a lot of parts. So recap is that I want to recap with the advice that the Prophet ﷺ told the archers: do not leave your stations and protect us with your arrows. Even if you see the birds eating our bodies, do not come until I send for you. He let them know explicitly: do not come to us until you see the birds. Even if you see the birds eating our bodies, do not come to us, right? And that's what Yusuf said. And a lot of this is going to kind of talk about what Yusuf said until we get to the new stuff, right? So the leaders of the Quraysh that were attacking was, in the middle we have Abu Sufyan, right? Abu Sufyan you see going through the middle of that picture. And then you see on the right side is Khalid ibn al-Walid, and on the left side you see Ikrimah ibn Abi Jahl. Abu Jahl died in the Battle of Badr, and his son is Ikrimah, right? Now Quraysh and the flag bearers. We know that the women of Quraysh were forced to flee. This is something that we know. And this is the first assault, right? We know that they're forced to flee, and they bring their women with them standing in the back. Their women are there like cheerleaders, right? And they're waiting in the back, and they're stationed at the very end of the encampment. And this shows that the concentrations of Muslims was to their advantage. Now, from the initial assault, the flag was given to a tribe, and they were the ones who had the honor of always carrying the flag. So every tribe has their own things. We have a tribe that's in charge of the water. We have the tribe that's in charge of this and that. This tribe is in charge of being flag bearers, right? And in the Battle of Badr, they also had the flag, and the flag bearer was the first to run away. Flag bearer was the first to run away in the Battle of Badr, right? And he tells him to either take the flag. Abu Sufyan comes to spite them, make them mad, and make them want to fight more. He says, you either take the flag and give it its right, or you give it up. That's what he said. Just give it up or give it its right. This made him angry. This wanted them to get a lot more more passionate about the fighting, right? And Talha, who was the one who got his leg cut off by Ali ibn Abu Talib in the first flag, he's the first flag bearer. He was the one that got his leg cut off, and he's the one that died later. Yusuf talked about this, by the way. And 10 of them kept grabbing the flag, and they all kept dying. 10 dead, 10 dead. Every single one dead, dead, dead. Most of them were died by the hands of Hamza, who's the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, who we'll talk about later. He's the son of Abdul Muttalib, and he's the uncle to the Prophet ﷺ. He killed many of them, many of the flag bearers, just killing them. Because when you have the flag, you're kind of like you stick out like a sore thumb. You're the main thing which they want to take on, right? And the three main who got rid of the entire Banu Abdudar, which is the flag bearer tribe, was Hamza, Ali, and Abu Dujana, who Yusuf talked about. With the flag falling to the ground and not getting picked up, then the assumption from the Muslim is made that the fight is over, the battle is over, right? I want to talk a little bit more about Abu Dujana. He's really cool. He's one of my favorite Sahaba because of how cool he is. He wears the turban of death. So when the Prophet ﷺ gave the sword to Abu Dujana, there's a lot that Yusuf talked about. Sorry, I keep repeating that. But he gave the sword to Abu Dujana. Zubair ibn al-Awwam felt something in his heart when the Prophet ﷺ gave him the sword. He felt something in his heart. He felt like, well, I'm like, why did he give him the sword? I'm his cousin. How come he didn't give it to me, right? So he decided to follow. And Dujana is reporting this in the first person. So he says he decided. Sorry, he's not reporting this in the first person. Zubair ibn al-Awwam is. So he decided to follow Abu Dujana. Like, why did he choose him over me? And he said that Abu Dujana didn't meet a single person except that he got rid of him with that sword. That sword got rid of every single person that came in the way, right? He said there was one person in the Quraysh that was causing a lot of havoc in the Muslims. He's reporting. One guy in Quraysh is causing a lot of havoc. He's killing so many people, right? So he made dua to Allah. Imagine you're making dua to Allah. Please, Allah, have Abu Dujana meet this man. And why does he want to meet this man? Because he's a fan of Abu Dujana. He thinks Abu Dujana is so cool. Fight this guy. I want to watch, like how we want to watch the movies and the UFC fights, right? We love the Muslims fighting like Islam Makhachev and Khabib. We want to see them fight. We don't want to see them lose, but we love to see them fight, you know? Same thing, wanting to see Abu Dujana fight this guy. So the Qurayshi gave the first blow. So he went to strike with the first blow, and Abu Dujana immediately gets rid of him. This man had the turban of death on too. He'd always wear a turban. And Abu Dujana also narrated that he's narrating now. He's seen someone with a cloak. The person was wearing a cloak, and he was about to strike them with his sword. He was going to kill this person. And they turned around, they yelled out like a cry. How the Arab woman did back then, they'll start yelling like a crazy cry thing. I don't really want to demonstrate it. But and he was about to strike them with a sword, and they turned, and it was Hind. Who is Hind? Hind is the wife of Abu Sufyan, the one who did crazy things to Hamza. She became a Muslim though later on. And he felt embarrassed. So when he was about to strike Hind, he felt embarrassed, and he left her because he didn't find it suitable for the sword that the Prophet ﷺ gave him to be used to kill a woman. It's not suitable. And he let her be. Now look at this Islam. You know, we see women and children, we don't kill them. Other people, we see them, they kill them brutally in bad ways. You see this and you show mercy to them, you know, because it's a woman. Now, Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, he didn't participate in Badr, so he was very eager to participate. If you check the scoreboard and do the math, you see that Hamza has killed the most number of the Quraysh people in this battle. He killed the most, along with Ali and Abu Dujana. Now, a conclusion on the first attack, because it was talked about, it was narrated that when we fought them at Uhud, Sahabis narrating that when we fought them at Uhud, they turned and fled. With my own eyes, I saw the woman lifting their skirts, and you can see their legs, and you seen their ankle bracelets. And I remember clearly seeing Hind, who's the wife of Abu Sufyan, and her female companions all running away up the mountain. So why is this like something that's of importance? Why? Because the women are stationed in the back. Also, the map's over there if you want to look at the map. But you can keep this one too, inshallah. But the women are stationed all the way in the back. So if you see the woman running away, it's 3,000 versus 700. Women are all the way in the back. So for 700 to go and pierce through that, and for the woman to run away, that means that there's a threat, and they're running up with their skirts up, sprinting. That means the Muslims went all the way through, you know? Now, this shows us how devastating the first impact at Uhud was. And remember, this isn't like some type of game. We're talking about 700 versus 3,000. No, this isn't like Looney Tunes. You know what I'm saying? 700 versus 3,000, and this was happening. Now, it's not 1,000 versus 3,000, 700 versus 2,000, because the 300 hypocrites fled, remember? And Allah knew the contents of their heart. Next, I want to talk about the martyrdom of Hamza. In verses, Allah says that, and this is an understanding of the verses, is that then when you yourselves became lazy and started arguing amongst yourselves, and you saw that which you love, when you were pure and sincere, I gave what I promised. And when you got lazy and greedy, this is when the disaster struck. Badr, they're pure and sincere, and what they won. Uhud, they started changing and being a little more like they weren't sincere anymore. They got greedy and lazy, and then this was this disaster struck. And this happens to fall onto the ghanima, the war booty, which they tried to get, which we'll talk about. When they fled, the Sahaba got complacent and started collecting the war booty. They started collecting it, right? And the weapons, when you collect war booty, what's the number one thing? It's weapons. Weapons are number one. You get weapons because why? You can pass them on to your generations, your grandchildren. So weapons are cool, right? Next, then we have tents and camels. Camels, if they fled running, like how the women were running with their skirts up, with their ankle bracelets showing, they might have left the camels. Camels are a lot of money. If you kill somebody, the blood money is 100 camels. 100 camels, right? 100 camels. And the rules of Ghanima hasn't been fully finalized yet, by the way. So in here, it's not finalized yet, the rule of Ghanima. But some rules came down, but not all the rules. The Sahaba were not aware that everyone will get the same share of Ghanima. So one of the rules is when they flee and there's Ghanima, everybody's going to get the share of it. Like you get it. Unless the warrior kills the other warrior, now you get his war booty. Ghanima is war booty, by the way. And but they flee and they left it behind, then that means one person will take it. It's split. And it is a major sin to steal it. Major sin. You collect and pile it and distribute it equally. Those who were eager for the war booty didn't benefit one bit. So you're eager for it, you went for it, you didn't benefit. Because even if you got it, it would have been split anyways. Or if you stole it, you would have got a major sin. When the archers saw them collecting the war booty, the archers seen like, man, these guys are collecting war booty. Imagine you're you see on the paper where the archers are on the mountains. Imagine you're on there and you see everybody collecting everything. You're not going to go and collect things when a guy has a sword right in front of your face. You're not going to start collecting things. The people have to leave, and then you start collecting things, right? So obviously all the archers, 50 archers see on the mountains that we're told, do not leave, even if you see birds eating our bodies until somebody calls for you. And they see everybody collecting the stuff, like, bro, they're gone. Like, let me pull up. Us? Man, bro, who knows? Allahu Alam, like, we would really just go down there ourselves, like, bro, they're gone. Like, what? Everybody's leaving and we're collecting. That means we won, you know? Their flag has already fell to the floor as well. Our flag is still raised high, right? Now, and the archers saw them collecting the war booty, and this shows that Quraysh is completely gone. This is where Shaitan got to them. They were waiting for a long time and see them collecting the war booty. They got tempted by the Ghanima. they began disputing amongst themselves. And Abdullah ibn Jubair said, they're disputing. At first, you can imagine it starts with two people saying, yo, they're kind of like done. An hour passes by. Yo, it's been a long time, bro. They're not coming back. Like 20 of them want to join. 20 turns to 40. Now, Abdullah ibn Jubair said, have you forgotten what the Prophet said? Stay where you are until my command comes to you. By Allah, I will not move my place until the command comes to me. That's what he says. I will not. Abdullah ibn Jubair was one of them. And there are 50 archers. 40 of them were saying, come on, let's just go. 40 leave. 10 stay. 40 and 10 stay. Now, this is when Khalid ibn Walid, the military genius. Khalid ibn Walid is he's Saifullah. He's a sword of Allah. So the sword of Allah, you see in all the TikToks. I don't know if you're in a gym era, a gym phase in your life. TikToks might pop up on your For You page, and you'll see that the sword of Allah can never be broken. The only time the sword of Allah has ever been broken, or hasn't been broken, the only time it's been, Khalid ibn Walid had to die in his bed. Why? Because the sword of Allah cannot be broken. You can't. The Prophet named him Saifullah. So Khalid ibn Walid saw this opportunity, and as he was fleeing, he was paying attention to what he can do. So he's running away, fleeing, tactical flee, and he's still looking back. And as he's looking back, he sees 40 archers coming down. He's like, this is my chance. So he's fleeing while looking at archers coming down, right? It's like, okay, this is my chance. This is the military genius right here. Khalid ibn Walid carved up a majority of the Muslim nations. He went, attacked Persia, took over Persia, like all these things. He was different, Saifullah, sword of Allah. What can you expect? The Persian and the Roman Empire were going against each other neck to neck for so long. They're fighting for so long, hundreds of years. And in just 2 years, they got it. Now, this was his first real battle, by the way. He wasn't in Badr. He shows his military genius. And as soon as he sees the 40 people going down, he sees this opportunity as a great chance. So Khalid ibn Walid flanks the archers with his group of people. If you look at the picture, you see where his flank was coming from. So he goes and he's cutting up the Muslim army into half. He goes and Muslim army's cut into half now. 700 people are cut into half, right? So on one side, you have the camp of the Prophet ﷺ, and on the other side is where the people are collecting the ghanima, right? And I also want to point out that when you're collecting ghanima, you're wearing, in battle, you're wearing heavy armor. When you're collecting war booty, you take your armor off, and you get relaxed, like, oh, let's collect it real quick, I can take my armor off. It's like coming to content and taking your backpack off because you don't feel like talking with your boys with your backpack on. You want to keep your backpack off. Same thing they're doing, they were collecting war booty, but heavier. Now, he cut the army in half, and we can also infer that the Muslims who were connecting ghanima could have taken their armor off and collected the ghanima. So we attacked them, and the first person to see Khalid ibn Walid was who? Who was the first person to see Khalid ibn Walid? Flank. He's flanking. Take a guess. Take a guess. It was the Prophet who's seen Khalid ibn Walid. So it shows that he kind of has an eye out for what's happening. He's still a little anxious. Even though they all fled, he's still kind of anxious. And this is just inferring, and this is what scholars will differ from. There's no evidences of this, but this is kind of like deducing things. It is human instinct when you see an enemy coming, you flee. Also, it's very, very dangerous for the Prophet to give his location away. For him to give his location away, that is risky. Like, you're really giving your location away, you're the number one target. Now, so our Prophet stood up and started shouting to the Muslims, "Oh, Muslims behind you!" Started yelling that, "Oh, Muslims behind you!" Gave his whole entire position away. Now he's given his own coordinates away to save the Muslims. Had he not given this warning, the massacre could have been maybe double or triple if he didn't give his warning. Sacrificing himself. Now, Allah says in the Quran, recall when you were fleeing onto the mountains and you were not caring about anyone, and your Prophet was calling you from your back. He was calling you from your back. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the situation very vividly. So the Sahaba are running away, and the Prophet is calling them. You're running? And he's calling them, right? Now, Shaitan did a tactic at this point, and he wanted to cause chaos. And in the chaos and confusion, he tricked groups by saying, careful, the enemy is right there. He's tricking groups, saying, careful, the enemy is right there in all this chaos. And we had tragic Muslims death. A lot of Muslims died in this. Many people came in big figures. They came and Muslim figures, they died. Why? Because Shaitan's yelling out. And Shaitan was yelling. He went there, disguised himself, seeing this as the perfect opportunity when the chaos is breaking out. They start yelling, this is an enemy. They come and they're wearing helmets, you can't really tell. And one person, I forgot, I didn't write his name down, there would have been too much, but he's seen his own father there. His own father was there. And a bunch of the people who surrounded him, he's wearing armor. And father's an old man, he's a good Muslim. And they go, and as they're all about to strike him and kill him, his son is yelling, no, that's my father. Killed. The Prophet ﷺ had to gave him 100 camels and blood money. And what he did, he got all the 100 camels and he gave it all away. And then after that, he became the person who holds the secrets for the Prophet ﷺ. There's a funny story of Umar ibn al-Khattab going, begging him, who's the person who am I one of the people of Jannah, you know? Because what he has, this man had, was like all the secrets of who the munafiqs were. He had them all. The Prophet kept him as a secret teller. And Umar ibn Khattab kept pressuring him, please, like, tell me, who it is, am I one of the people? Am I one of the people? And then he just said to him, ended up saying it to him because he's not supposed to say, but he still said it. He was saying the truth, bro. Like, you're literally like one of the people promised Jannah. Like, he gave him the answer, you know, like, and that's kind of how it went. Now, let's talk about the death of Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib. Remember, in the beginning, Hamza converted out of family pride, right? And Abu Jahl insulted the Prophet ﷺ, and Hamza blurted out that he's a Muslim as well, and he stuck to it. He blurted out, I'm a Muslim, out of like kind of like family pride, right? But then he ended up becoming an amazing Muslim. So Jubair, in his family pride, had his uncle killed in Badr. So Jubair in Badr had his uncle killed by Hamza. And he told the slave, what's his slave's name? Who's the slave that killed the Prophet ﷺ's uncle, Hamza? Who's the slave? What was it? Correct. The slave was Wahshi, right? And his master was Jubair. Actually, we're going to do a thing. Everybody who gets the correct points, correct answers, you get 1 point. So give yourself a point. So Jubair, in his family pride, had his uncle killed in Badr. And he told his slave Wahshi that if you kill Hamza, also Yunus, you can't play. And he told his slave Wahshi that if you kill Hamza, then you will get your freedom. If you kill him, you get your freedom. So he's saying, you kill Hamza, you're getting your freedom. Okay? Like, and then Wahshi's like, man, like, I'm getting my freedom. I'm going to want to kill him, right? So he goes to try to kill him. And he says he wants the Prophet ﷺ to lose his uncle like how he lost his uncle. And he also wants Hamza to die because he's the one who killed his uncle. There's 2 reasons on why he wanted that, right? Now, 2 of the Tabi'een visited one of the cities of Iraq to see Wahshi, right? Who was an old man and asked how they killed Hamza. He's an old man asking, like, he went to him, like, hey, like, Wahshi, like, how'd you kill Hamza, right? Rahimullah. Wahshi has lost his eyesight, right? And he saw their feet. And he said, are you so-and-so? He saw their feet. He just sees their feet and say, are you so-and-so, right? I'll get into that in a second, like, how could that be possible, right? So he says, are you so-and-so? And he said, yes. And he said, I used to play with your feet when you were a baby in Mecca. I used to play with your feet when you were a baby in Mecca. He's an old man now. Why was he able to find out who this person was by his feet? That's my next question. By his feet, literally just by his feet. Or if you check their fingertips, you can see like exactly who somebody is. It's a custom that we don't have anymore today.
Any question again?
Why were they able to? Why were people back then able to? So while she was down, he was looking at feet, and he sees 2 people's feet, and he knew exactly who it was from when he was a kid, and he played with them when they were a baby. He knew who it was so and so, the son of so and so, and when he played with them way back in the day. How was he able to find out whose feet these were? So the Arabs had a science of feet reading. Back then, they actually had a science of reading feet. It's something that we don't do anymore, but it exists. You can read people's feet, you can find out who they are, right? And they would tell genealogy by looking at the feet. That's what they would do, right? Now, Wahshi says, and he starts narrating, Wahshi says that he will tell them word for word as to how he told the Prophet ﷺ about how he killed Hamza, right? Now, he says word for word he told the Prophet, and we have it. It's Wahshi saying himself, and we have this, which is really cool. So it's something that Wahshi says himself about what happened. So this is even stronger in history, because we know history is written through the winners. And our hadiths aren't the case. That isn't the case for our hadiths. But in this specific case, even if we put it into the criteria of how the non-Muslims gauge history, it's a loser telling the history, like a person who lost in that situation. Not the winners who write history, but somebody who lost that situation. I don't mean like he's a loser, but he's somebody who's lost that situation, right? So he says he had no desire to fight or be in the war, but his master Jubair promised his freedom if he killed Hamza. He said, I had no desire to kill anyone except for Hamza. That's what he said. I had no desire to kill anyone except for Hamza. I began following him everywhere he was going. I was hiding behind him. And when Hamza killed someone from the Quraysh and he lowered his sword, so Hamza killed somebody, lowered the sword, Wahshi's behind him. And Wahshi jumped out of a bush and threw his javelin as hard as he could. Now imagine how hard you have to throw a javelin. You guys were at retreat. You see how hard you have to hit the arrow. Still wouldn't go through the hay. Now, how hard he threw his javelin, right? He threw as hard as he could. It came out from behind and came out from the front of Hamza. From behind, straight out the front. Completely through his body, right? Hamza, the beloved uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. Who, again, for the ones who came late, check the scoreboard, do the math. He had the most bodies in Uhud. He killed the most amount of them. Now, Hamza turned around to try to fight. He still turned around. The javelin threw him. He turned around to still try to fight, right? But before he could raise his sword, he turned around and he collapsed, right? Before he could raise his sword. Wahshi aimed for an area that is between the armor chinks. He knows a lot about army. Aimed between the armor chinks, right? And Jubair ibn Mut'im was guided to Islam as well. So the owner of Wahshi was guided to Islam. And later on, Wahshi also became a Muslim. And I want to ask you guys, this is another point. These people, Wahshi was known for. Actually, never mind. I don't want to get into that. But Wahshi fled to Ta'if, right? So he fled to Ta'if. The reason why I don't want to get into it is because it's something that you guys might start thinking about and overthinking about. But since I don't have the luxury of time to explain it, it's better that I don't say it in general. But Wahshi fled to Ta'if when the Prophet ﷺ conquered Mecca, right? Then in a year, Ta'if came next. So when Mecca was conquered, in the conquest of Mecca, which we'll get into, there's two high points, right? So there's the Uhud, which is my favorite part. It's so interesting, right? And then we go, and then there's a climax point. The climax point is the battle of the conquest of Mecca, because it's finally the turning point. When you have Bilal crying on the streets, the one day the conquest of Mecca, him saying the adhan on top of the Kaaba, from crying the streets to adhan to down, right? And everything settling down. That's a really high point, right? And he conquered Mecca, and then that's when Wahshi ran away. 1 year later, he conquered Ta'if, and then that's when he ran to Ta'if, and that's when he conquered Ta'if. And Wahshi said he didn't know what to do. He felt the whole world was on him. That's what he said. So he ran to Syria, and someone said, "Don't you know that when someone accepts his religion, this man's religion, that he will not kill anyone who accepts his religion? Don't you know? Run. If you accept his religion, he's not going to kill you, right?" So he decided to accept Islam, right? So he hid himself with a turban. He went to Mecca, hidden in a turban, without anybody seeing him. He's going through, hiding, making sure nobody notices him. Because the second he takes that turban off, he will die. If you take that turban off, you're dead. Like, people know who people are. You will die. Inshallah, scoot down. Everybody come over forward. There's also a map there. You can pass around to them so they can see what the terrain of Uhud looked like. But he went to the Prophet ﷺ, took off his turban, and immediately said a shahada. So fast he said a shahada. Because why? Because he will die. Second time he's gonna die. Right? They will kill him. So he says shahada right there. Right there in front of his face. And then the Prophet ﷺ says, "Are you Wahshi?" So with just knowing who, it's been years, many years. He said, "Are you Wahshi?" Straight to his face. "Tell me how you killed Hamza." And Wahshi said yes. He said, "Tell me how you killed Hamza." So Wahshi said everything that I just narrated to you right now. That he said everything. That he's saying to these two people that he said to the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ cried until his beard turned wet. And the Prophet ﷺ told Wahshi to hide himself because he doesn't want to see him. Hide yourself, I don't want to see you, Wahshi. Now imagine what a difficult punishment this is in this world. In this world, you have to hide yourself in the face of the Prophet ﷺ. You're forgiven, you're a Muslim. All the previous sins before are forgiven. But you have to hide yourself from the Prophet ﷺ's face, and you have to hide behind pillars to watch him. That's honestly as much of a cruel punishment as you can find in this world. It's pretty sad, right? And this is what he had to. This is what Wahshi's test was. He was given this test, right? And some people also forget that the Sahaba are still human. They're not superhumans, but they were the best of our generations. So Hind, Wahshi, and all these things, they did all these things, and maybe they did other things when they became Muslim still. And we had Sahaba who did adultery. We had Sahaba who drank. We had Sahaba who did other things, lied, backbit. But the Sahaba are the best of generations, So I'm going to talk about Hind, who was the wife of Abu Sufyan, the cruel deed that she did on Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib. She did a cruel deed. Now imagine this, right? So Hamza was killed. By the way, Hamza was killed in the victory half. So when all the women are fleeing, Hamza was killed in that half, right? There's two halves we'll get into. This is the first half. He was killed in the first half where they're completely getting everybody and Wahshi through the spear before Khalid ibn Walid's flank. So before Khalid ibn Walid's flank, Khalid, when he flanked them, it was the second half. So you got the first half, flank, second half. So the first half they're winning, they got flanked, now it's bad, So Hind, who also accepts Islam later, at this time she had so much anger. She's so much anger. Imagine how much anger you have to have in your heart at this time. That she slit open the stomach of Hamza when he's dead, his dead body, slit open his stomach. A lot of you heard this. A lot of you know about the story. She slit open the stomach of Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, grabbed his liver, She bites it and she spits it out. His liver. She's come on now, that's nasty, you know. Now, and she also cuts off his fingers, and some narrations say his toes as well. And she wore it as a necklace around his fingers and toes as a necklace, for no other reason than to inflict pain on the Prophet ﷺ. That was the only reason. I wanted to inflict pain on him, you know. Now, and Allah is all knowing. She was guided for a reason. Wahshi was guided for a reason. Hind was guided for a reason. Why did she become Muslim? Like, how can somebody like this become a Muslim? Allah knows best. It's not for us to question why. And how come this person, not this person? And why not Abu Talib, who was the uncle, who was so much better? But why her, who did so much evil deeds? Allah knows better, you know? So don't get those thoughts into your head. Allah is all knowing, you know? And the Prophet ﷺ, when he saw this, he cried. And this was after the battle. And he said, were it not for the fact Safiya would, after the battle, this is what he said. If it was not for the fact that Safiya would grieve, and she is also the full sister of Hamza, Safiya is the full sister. If it wasn't for the fact that she would grieve, then people would take this as a sunnah if I did this. I would have left his body untouched until it was in the bellies of the beasts and the birds. He would just left his body there. If people were going to take it as a sunnah, if it wasn't going to make Safiya grieve, right? Now, I want his body to be plucked even more, so Allah honors him more, and Allah collects his body from all these places as a means of honoring Hamza, you know? And if Allah ever gives me victory over the Quraysh, I will mutilate 30 bodies because of this one. This one body, I will mutilate 30 bodies because of this one. That's what the Prophet said. And then Allah revealed, later on Allah revealed, if you are going to take revenge, then take revenge that is exactly equivalent. And if you are patient, you forgive, then it's better. It's better if you are patient and forgive. Yes, you can do it, but it has to be equal. It's not like you take one of mine, I'm gonna take 30 of yours. If you take one of mine, I'm gonna take one of yours. But if you're patient, it's better. Imagine the reward for being patient. We see a lot of people going to jail for murder and stuff of that sort, and the families forgives them. That's so good, you know. Now, when this ayah came down, the Prophet ﷺ gave a permanent commandment. So he gave a permanent commandment when this ayah came down. He said, no dead body should ever be mutilated. That's his permanent commandment. No dead body can ever be mutilated. This is when the commandment came down. And it's been forbidden uncategorically. It's been forbidden. Next, I want to talk about the next Sahaba, who is Musab ibn Umair. Now, I want to ask you guys, this is for a point. Who was Musab ibn Umair? We talked about him before. Yunus, you can answer. Who was Musab ibn Umair? What did he do? Why is he so great? Give me just anything like you can remember. Musab ibn Umair. No?
Something to do with the bank.
Maybe, but I don't remember that part. No, nobody else? So Musab ibn Umair was the one that was sent to Medina, who brought so many Muslims. He brought like 300, 400 Muslims before the treaty, brought them all, and I'll keep reading. But Musab ibn Umair was also killed in this battle. He was killed in this battle of Uhud, right? And most likely by the forces of Khalid ibn al-Walid. And since Musab had the flag, it would make more sense to be in the second half that he died, because he had the flag, right? And Musab. So let's start from the beginning. Man, Musab ibn Umair is one of my favorite Sahabas. This guy is different. He's different. Like, we cannot, like, man, we don't, like, he's on a different level. These Sahabas are on different levels. There's a reason why they're the best generation. And then the Tabi'in and the Tabi'in. There's a reason. And look at this. How many of you can do this right now? How much stuff is going on in our world right now we don't even want to go, Like, you don't even want to think about it, right? So, and Musab ibn Umair was known to have super rich parents. His parents were so rich. They'll give him this, they'll give him that, they'll give him everything. He has everything. He's spoiled. His parents were so rich, right? And he became Muslim, and his parents started torturing him. He started getting tortured for being a Muslim. He was getting tortured completely, right? He broke his chains and ran away to Medina. He had no place to stay. He had no place to stay at all, right? And he went to Medina. He was the one who preached to Medina, and brought all those Muslims. And of his hands, every tribe had a Muslim because of him. When he came, every tribe had a Muslim because of him. He brought so many Muslims, right? And that's how so much of the Aus and the Hazraj came together, Now, he was known for being gentle and loving. In the Battle of Uhud, he died a tragic death. So he was holding the flag in his right hand, right? He's the flag bearer. First of all, flag bearer stuff. That's cool already. He's holding the flag in his right hand, going. The enemies catch up to him. The enemies cut off his right hand. The flag falls onto the floor. He gets his left hand, he picks up the flag again with his left hand. Cut off again. Now he has no hands anymore. The flag's on the floor. He gets the stubs of his ripped out arms, holds the flag again, and like 10 of the Quraysh flag bearers all dead. They keep dropping the flag and running. And then in Badr, they dropped the flag and actually ran. In Badr, they dropped it and ran. But he has a stubs bleeding out flag. The guy who brought so many Muslims, rich parents, everything. The guy who was bleeding out, holding a flag while all the enemies are against him. The only thing he's waiting for at this point is the shahada. He's like, I'm ready. Like, you know? Musab ibn Umair was different, bro. Like, he was different. And he's holding with the stubs and whatever he had left. And at this point, he's waiting for shahada. And he was killed with multiple stabs and wounds. Multiple. Dead, like, completely just beat up, cut up, you know? And Sahih Bukhari narrates that Khabab said when he was about to die, Khabab was about to die, Khabab lived a good life, right? We all emigrated with the Prophet ﷺ seeking the rewards of Allah. And so our reward is with Allah. But some of us left this dunya without taking any of that reward. Their full reward is in the hereafter, and among them is Musab ibn Umair. He was killed on the day of Uhud, and all he had was one garment he was wearing. He only had one garment he was wearing when he died. If you covered his bottom half, his top half would be naked. And if you covered his top half, his bottom half would be naked. Or his garment when he passed away to do that, right? He had nothing. He had everything. His parents gave him everything. And he finished with nothing. Why? Because he's seen Islam like that. He was living with the life of the Prophet ﷺ. He lived the life with the Prophet ﷺ, seeing him, and seeing the Prophet ﷺ's actions made a man like that to be tortured by his own parents, to do this, to holding flags with studs. When we were giving dawah and they asked, like, man, the Prophet ﷺ, like, he could have been a liar, or the Prophet ﷺ could have been, like, power hungry. You see situations like these, could a man really have done all this for nothing? When the flag bearers already ran away because of tribalism and family bonds, they ran. But he's holding a flag with blood in his nubs, getting tortured by his family, leaving luxury to die with just one piece of cloth on him that couldn't even cover his bottom half if it covered his top. It couldn't cover his top half if it covered his bottom. So what they did, they get a bunch of leaves and stuff, dried leaves and other things when you find it in the desert, and covered his lower half with that. Look at this, you know? Now, they covered it with desert grass, dried leaves, etc. And he says, I'm dying in such luxury, and Musab, my friend, died in such poverty. I don't know what my fate is going to be. As for Musab, Allah gave him everything in the next and nothing in this dunya. You know? And then next we're going to talk about the story of Handala. So this is interesting because it is said that he was, I'm going to speed up a little bit. It was said that he was about to, actually, let me ask you guys for a point. Who is Handala? Handala. Who is he? I'll give you a hint. It has something to do with angels. I'll give you another hint. It has something to do with ghusl. Ghusl, angels, Handala.
Tell you one story about that.
Huh?
Okay, I can tell you one story about that.
Okay. You're not playing, no. This is too good. Don't worry about it. But it was said he was about to kill Abu Sufyan. He's going to about to kill Abu Sufyan, right? And a spear came out of nowhere and killed him. He killed him right away. He was about to get Abu Sufyan, the leader in the middle flank, who was the leader of like Quraysh, and he got killed by a spear on the spot. And after the battle, the Prophet said, I saw the angels washing the body of Handala while they were taking him up. So the angels did his ghusl for him on his way out. The angels did it, right? And why? This is the only one that the angels did it for. Why? So the body of a shaheed is not washed. We know this. The body is not washed. I mean, he died as shaheed. Why is his body being washed? So the reason for that is the Prophet said, go ask his wife. That's what he said. And we know he was newly married and his wife really didn't want him to go. And she begs and tempts him in the morning. And they got intimate and he puts his armor on and didn't do ghusl. And he ended up getting a much better ghusl on the way to Jannah. So that was him. The one guy who did the angels did his ghusl for him. Now, next one I want to talk about is Quzman. Quzman. Who is Quzman? Who knows Quzman? A point. I'll give you guys 5 points for knowing Quzman. No? So Quzman, when he went back with Abdullah ibn Ubay, who was a hypocrite. Remember 300 ran away, right? 300 ran. He went back with them. So, and then as he goes, all the women are making fun of him, like, bro, you're really going to come here, run away? All these guys are fighting. What are you doing, bro? Like, roasting him, like toasting him, you know? And the woman starts rebuking him, saying that they're mocking him, right? And how can he leave us in when they're all fighting, right? So what he does, he goes back to war. So he left all the way back home, goes back to war. And what does this mean? His niyyah is bad now. His intention is not good. His intention is for these women, not for the sake of Allah, right? And we know some of the first people to enter the hellfire are the person who, yes, what is it?
Do those things for other reasons.
Do things for other reasons. I believe, off the top of my head, don't quote me on this. One is definitely the shaheed. I think the other is becoming a hafiz. And the third one, I don't remember. Does anybody know?
The one who donates the most.
Amazing.
Money, wealth.
Wealth? Was it wealth?
The wealth, yeah.
You sure about that?
Shaheed, wealth, and knowledge.
Knowledge. Okay. It's for doing it in the wrong intentions. So it's so important that you guys get your intentions correct. And this is why it's so important also that when we do this challenge for all these points, make sure your intentions are still correct. Why? It's very important. Because look at the story, right? Now, he went back to Abdullah ibn Ubay. Women were mocking him and all that, right? So he comes back, and this guy's a warrior, by the way. He's a munafiq, but he's a warrior. So he goes and he starts wreaking havoc on the enemy, and a Sahaba goes to the Prophet ﷺ and tells the Prophet ﷺ, Quzman is fighting an amazing battle. He's fighting an amazing battle. This guy's fighting crazily. And the Prophet ﷺ said he is going to hell. You look at this guy, he's fighting so crazy. He's a Muslim, but a hypocrite. But Allah knows the contents of somebody's heart, so Allah knew he was a hypocrite. Not everybody else knew he was a hypocrite. But the Prophet ﷺ said he is going to hell. Now, and the Sahaba got a shock. He got a shock of, damn, how's this guy going to hell? He's fighting so valiantly and warriorly. He looks like a beast, right? How is he going to hell, right? Now, he goes and he follows Quzman and to see the reason why Quzman was going to hell. And Quzman was hit by an arrow. Got hit by one arrow. He gets hit by an arrow, so he gets his sword. And he starts yelling out in pain. He gets his sword, puts the hilt, the hand portion of the sword on the ground, the sharp part on his stomach, and jumps on his sword and commits suicide. What does it show? Somebody who commits suicide is going to hellfire. So he goes back to the Prophet ﷺ and he told him what happened. And the Prophet ﷺ said, sometimes people help this religion through an evil man. Sometimes this religion is helped through an evil man. And that was it was Quzman, right? This guy he kills himself and his niyyah was wrong. And Allahu Alam, if he went to hellfire because of even killing himself, I mean, that's probably a huge portion of it. But also his niyyah. Niyyah was incorrect too. So next we're going to talk about Usaydim. You guys get a point. Who's Usaydim? Who is Usaydim? This is very interesting too. Abu Hanifa used to quiz his students on this question. Who's Usaydim? Abu Hanifa, just like this, asked his students, who's Usaydim? Actually, no, Abu Hanifa asked it a little differently. He would ask, who was the Muslim who entered Jannah without praying one salah? That's how he would ask them. And then they would say Usaydim. So another Sahaba accepted Islam in the morning of Uhud. So he accepted Islam in the morning of Uhud. And he died as shaheed in the battle of Uhud. And he did not pray a single salah. The Prophet told him that he did very little, but his ajr is a lot. That's what he told the Sahaba, that after he did. His ajr is a lot, but he did very little. Abu Hurairah tested students asking this question, right? Now, it's kind of crazy. He didn't do much, but he got his reward was crazy, I got a lot of that. Next, we're going to talk about the Prophet and how he got injured, right? So the Prophet, he was surrounded by 9 people, right? So 9 of his companions were with him. Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas and Talha ibn Ubaidullah were 2 muhajirun, and there were 7 ansar with him as well. What time is it?
4:40.
4:40. Okay, and there's 7 ansar with him as well. And we don't know the names of the 7 ansar, right? There's 2, and it was Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas and Talha ibn Ubaidullah, right? We know that these 2 are promised Jannah. Why did 7 people promise Jannah? Now, so when the Prophet was yelling out to them to be careful, they're coming from behind you. Right? So they all see them coming, and they seen them, and they knew exactly where to hide because this is their zone. They know exactly where to hide, right? And because it's their domain. But the Quraysh didn't, and that was one of the greatest advantages. Quraysh didn't know the terrain. So the Prophet sought refuge in a small cave, and it's more like a narrow opening in a mountain. It's like they say cave, but it's like a narrow slit in a mountain that 2 people can fit in, right? It's like a slit in a mountain. And like a slither, and only 1 or 2 people can go in, and the rest outside. And there's 9 of them with him, right? And the cave is still there to this day. If you go, you can see this cave to this day, the slit in the wall to this day, right, where he was hiding. And such history went down in that place, right? And Quraysh was coming close to the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ said, who here will take on these people and be my companion in Jannah? Talha chose himself. So he said, stay here, Talha. And the rest went out to be decoys to throw the Quraysh off. So they're throwing the Quraysh off so the Prophet can flee, right? And all 7 of the Ansar died as shaheed. And every time Talha was saying that he will go next, when one died, he's like, I'm going to go next. And he sends the next one. He's like, I'm going to go next. The Prophet didn't let Talha go. Then finally, it was only Talha and Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. It was just those 2 left, right? With the Rasul. Now, here they wanted to kill the Prophet really badly. Quraysh wanted to kill the Prophet so bad. Also, if you guys want to step out, you can come closer. But Quraysh wanted to kill the Prophet so badly. There's nothing as dangerous or critical as this situation in the entire Seerah. In the whole Seerah, the whole thing, the Prophet in this situation of danger, you will not find the situation of him being in danger than compared to this one part. He literally it's worse. Yeah, Suraqah ibn Malik found him with Abu Bakr Siddiq over there in the cave when they fled. But it was Suraqah ibn Malik, and it was still a 1v2. Suraqah ibn Malik would have had to go and bring people in the first place. So it was still not that bad. And Suraqah ibn Malik was more so like a scout. And then you see in the incident of Ta'if, he was getting stoned to completely bleeding with Zayd ibn Haritha. They were getting stoned completely, but their intention wasn't to kill him. Their intention was to humiliate him. But now they're here and they're like, I'm killing this man. I want to kill him, you know? So they want to kill him badly. There's nothing as dangerous or critical as this situation in the entire Seerah. Both Talha and Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, they were expert archers. They're very expert archers. And Talha was a warrior as well. So Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was more of an archer. Talha was a warrior, a sword and that. And they started using their bows and arrows, and they were hitting arrows from a distance. There's a narration that the Prophet ﷺ would look outside to see if anyone is coming. He's looking outside to see if anyone's coming. Like, who's coming, right? And Talha said, may my mother and my father be given as ransom to you, O my messenger of Allah. And remember, we always tell you guys, the reason why you should learn the Seerah is why? So you can learn why is the reason why you should love the Prophet ﷺ more than your own parents. You're supposed to love him more than your own parents, but how many of us actually know the Prophet ﷺ's life? He's over here saying, I will give my parents, my father and my mother as ransom to you, O messenger of Allah. How could this not be the truth? You know, people are really saying these things in the heat of the battle. You'll see what they do, you know, to protect him, right? They see his miracles. They're the people that have seen it, and we're learning it through preservation. O messenger of Allah, do not look outside. Perhaps the stray arrow will come and strike you. My chest instead of your chest. Let me guard in front of this crevice, right? Sa'd was sending volleys of arrows. The Prophet was finding arrows on the floor and handing them to Sa'd. He kept handing the arrows to Sa'd, right? Then the Prophet said something to Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas that Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas is so proud of that the Prophet didn't tell anybody else. He said this to only one person. He never told this to anybody else. What did he tell Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas? This is the point. No. He said, Fidak, hopefully I don't get this word wrong. Fidaka abi wa ummi, which means may my mother and father be given as ransom for you. He said it back. Everybody says the Prophet doesn't say it back, but he said it just one time to him. May my mother and my father be given as ransom to you, right? And he said, shoot, O Sa'd, shoot. Everyone used this term to the Prophet many times, but this was the only time the Prophet said this. Both Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas and Talha are among the 10 promised Jannah, right? So Sa'd was more like in the archery section. Talha was armed with bows and arrows and swords too. So the Prophet sends Talha to deal with the guy coming up the mountain. Guy's coming up the mountain. So he sends him. And Talha kills this man. And the man attacked and took some of Talha's fingers. Talha's fingers are now gone. And he cries out, hiss. Talha cries out, hiss. And hiss means ouch. That's what it means. Ouch. We used to hiss back then, right? In that area. And the Prophet said, if you had only said Bismillah instead of this phrase, the angels would have lifted you up while the people are watching you and they would have taken you to the skies. So how many of us heard ourselves like, damn, or say the F word, you know? Like saying all these things, like F word, like saying damn, like all these things, you know? You guys know. I don't saying you guys know. But like how many of us say Bismillah, right? When you hit yourself, Bismillah. It's something I also need to work on, I'm not gonna lie. Because it says that if you had only said Bismillah instead of this phrase, the angels would have lifted you up while the people are watching you. They don't have taken you to the skies. So if you're about to get in a car accident, hopefully this never happens unless it's best. But hopefully you're about to get into a car accident, right? And next thing you know, a truck is flying at you. Instead of yelling, yell Bismillah or Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Get that easy on your mouth, you know. There's a reason why La ilaha illallah uses nothing on your lips. It only uses your tongue. La ilaha illallah. You only use your tongue when you say it. You don't move nothing. It's easy to say. La ilaha illallah. My mouth didn't move. You know? Use it. So the story of now we're gonna talk about the story of Qatada. 1 point for who knows Qatada. Who knows Qatada? So Qatada is the one, during this time, a number of Sahaba was figuring out where the Prophet was, and one of the first of the Sahaba who narrated found out that on the day of Uhud, the Prophet gave me a bow, and he kept shooting the bow, and the bow lost its flexibility. So he was seeing the arrows coming. So he sees the arrows coming. He found the Prophet, found it finally. So he catches up to him, right? He sees the arrows flying, and he's using his body to take these arrows. So arrows are coming. He's using his body to get these arrows. What a man, bro! He's over there guarding the Prophet, trying to get arrows to use his body to, so he doesn't get it, right? And his name is Qatada. And he goes, and at some point he couldn't use his body anymore. Arrow is coming. He throws, and what does he do? He throws his face in front of the arrow, and it gets his eye. His eye is now struck by an arrow, and he threw his face in front of an arrow for the Prophet. That's crazy, you know? Now, and the Prophet began to cry and said, Oh Allah, Qatada has protected your Prophet with his face, so let his eye become the best eye and the most precise in eyesight. So the Prophet took the arrow out of Qatada's eye. Qatada narrates that his eye healed instantly, and it became the better of the two eyes and more precise of the two eyes. It's a miracle. His eye is completely healed after this. There's an arrow in his eye, and his eye healed, right? So let's talk about the wounds of the Prophet. What wounds did he suffer, right? I can finish in 10 minutes.
You got 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 more minutes. The wounds of the Prophet. I don't want to record another Zoom meeting, guys. Sorry. The Prophet was wounded during this chaos. He was wounded at least 3 separate times. Allah knows best exactly. Utbah ibn Abi Waqas, Utbah ibn Abi Waqas, who is Saad's brother, is attacking the Prophet, and his brother Saad ibn Abi Waqas is defending. So Saad ibn Waqas is defending, and his brother is attacking. You know, and Utbah threw a stone at the Prophet that hit the Prophet in the face and injured his lips. Another injury was from Utbah as well. This one was when the arrow that entered the Prophet's armor, it went through the Prophet's cheek and dislodged one of his teeth, right? We don't know when it took place, but he came on his horse, and another wound was a short distance wound with a sword. We don't know when it took place, but he came on his horse, and he came to strike. Talha deflected the strike. It kind of slid off the thing. It hit the Prophet in his armor, and his armor head thing went into his cheek. And now his cheeks and his lips are completely bleeding. He could not stop bleeding. The bleeding was not stopping. Even after, it was not stopping. The Aisha had to get day palm leaves and wipe rub it and stop it, right? And it minimized the blow on the Prophet though. And then he said, "Oh, how can a nation be successful when they have injured their own prophet?" That's what he says. How can a nation be successful? You literally injured your own prophet. How are these people going to be saved? You know, no way they can be forgiven, any kind of thing. And at this, Allah revealed when they went back to Medina. Allah revealed this, and he's rebuking the Prophet. Allah is going angry at the Prophet. He's angry now. You know, it's honestly more of a reason. Like people say that Prophet Muhammad fabricated the Quran. How did he fabricate the Quran when he got rebuked in it many times, right? Now, he says that Allah says you have no share in this issue of what nation gets guided. Allah says whether I have punished or forgiven is no share of this issue. You cannot go beyond and say they will not be forgiven. You cannot say these people will not be forgiven. You are a slave. You are literally an abd. You are literally a slave. Every single one of you are slaves. All of you are slaves. Nothing will change that ever, no matter what. And Allah is the Most High. We are brothers here in Abdul Majid, slave of Majid. You know, you're a slave. That's what it is. Everybody here. And you say Alhamdulillah to it. You know? And Allah is the Most High, right? You have to remember the reality. He showed us the reality here. Now, so the Prophet, after this ayah came down, made dua and said, "Oh Allah, forgive my people because they do not know." So all these injuries were for a reason, and Allah knows the wisdom of it. He was protected the whole time despite being injured. So yeah, you're like, why does he have to get injured all the time? Like, why can't he just deliver the message? It's for a reason. It's better for you to not question it. Why are you questioning this? Come on, like Allah knows why he was injured, you know? And he was also protected still. You say, oh, he didn't protect him. He was protected. There's a reason why Islam is so beautiful today, and we're here today in this room, you know? Now, Musab's death when he died caused confusion. Somebody basically, so long story short, somebody killed Musab, started yelling that he killed the Prophet because Musab ibn Umair resembled the Prophet in some features, started yelling it, and some of the Muslims let their guard down a bit, and some of the Muslims as well. Some of the Muslims were like walking around aimlessly, and rumors spread around that the Sahaba are still searching around because they heard this guy saying that the Prophet was dead. So they're all searching around. Everybody rushed, and they couldn't find the Prophet. They were like extremely depressed, basically. Long story short, they thought Musab ibn Umair was the death of the Prophet, right? So they rushed up the mountain, and that's when they found the Prophet was actually alive. They were so happy. And at this point, Abu Bakr and a bunch of other people, I'm sorry, I'm talking fast, I don't have much time, and a bunch of other people grouped up with him. That's the Abu Bakr group. Abu Bakr now Siddiq narrates that when the people rushed to the Prophet, I saw one man protecting him, fighting everyone. One man was fighting everyone, protecting the Prophet. And he says, "Oh Allah, let it be Talha. If anyone has this honor except for me, let it be Talha, please. Like, please be Talha. Not like that's the only person you'll accept it from, you know." And as we were going up, someone rushed past me, and it was Abu Ubaidah ibn Amar ibn Jarrah. So he was so happy that the Prophet was alive, and they both got to the Prophet and they said that 2 arrows had pierced his helmet. That's something that 2 arrows pierced his helmet. And he basically, I didn't write it down. I'll just say it real quick. He said, "Please let me be the one to take the wound out of the Prophet." He gets his mouth on the arrow to take it out in an easy way. He goes and he loses some of his teeth. He loses his teeth bleeding out because the Prophet's not an arrow in his cheek. Loses that, and then Abu Bakr Siddiq was like, "Let me get the other." And he was known to be a soft guy, and he convinced Abu Bakr Siddiq to like, "No, it's okay. Let me do it, please. I already did the first one." He does it again, loses 2 more teeth, bleeding out. That's the pain he felt. The Prophet felt the pain of the arrow going through his cheek, armor going through him, and then he had felt the pain of it going out. And many other, he's bleeding. He was not stop bleeding. And then Ubay ibn Khalaf, before any of them come up, we should have spoken of this before because it's the man the Prophet killed and the only man who he's killed. The Prophet killed one man. One man was killed by the Prophet. This is the one man, right? And long story short, he's a nasty man. Allah gave him the dishonor of being the only pagan who died by the hands of the Prophet. Ubay ibn Khalaf. And Yusuf Morsi went over this in the last lecture, and to add on to it, it's mentioned in the books of Seerah many years later that Ibn Umar was traveling and he saw fire that frightened him. The fire frightened him at night. So he went to find out what it was. So he's in the area. There's a big fire. He found out what this fire is. It's frightening him, right? And he's like, "What's going on?" So he goes to the fire and he sees Ubay ibn Khalaf in the fire, or like a mirage of him in the fire, yelling out, "Thirst, thirst." He's yelling out, "Thirst, thirst," out of this fire, and he sees him. He's like, "Well, what's going on?" He's yelling out, "Thirst, thirst." But before he could do anything, a big figure comes up behind him, behind Ubay ibn Khalaf, and says, "Do not give him anything, because this is the one who the Prophet ﷺ killed." In Hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says Allah's anger becomes more severe on anyone who kills the Prophet. Who the Prophet kills. Anybody who the Prophet kills, Allah's anger is more severe. And this is where you see. Almost done. Like half a page left. But okay, now we're going to talk about Abu Sufyan, the final, right? So all this stuff happened. And inshallah, the map is over there if you guys want to look at the map for those who came late. So Abu Sufyan comes back and is called, because he wasn't there, so he was called. So and he goes and he most likely did not join on attack back. He stood on one of the mountains. He stood on one of the high mountains because he's the leader. He's the leader. He cries out, "Is Muhammad alive? Answer me." And he asked multiple times, "Is Muhammad alive? Answer me." He keeps asking, "Is Muhammad alive? Answer me." And the Prophet said, "Don't say anything," right? Then he said, "Is the son of Abu Qahafa alive?" Who is the son of Abu Qahafa? Who is the son of Abu Qahafa? Huh? You get a point. Who's the son of Abu Qahafa? The son of Abu Qahafa is Abu Bakr Siddiq. He's the son of Abu Bakr is the son of Abu Qahafa. Okay. And the Prophet did not answer still. And then he says, "Is the son of Khattab still alive?" This should be easier. Who's the son of Khattab? Omar. Correct. Omar ibn Khattab. He's still alive. The Prophet said, "Do not answer each time." Abu Sufyan was a pagan. And at this time, early. So he's asking about the son of Qahafa, the son of Khattab, and the Prophet asking. Abu Sufyan was a pagan at this time and early at the Battle of Badr. It's super early in the Seerah. And he literally recognizes who is number 1 and number 2 to the Prophet. He recognizes who's number 1 and who's number 2. He's calling their names. There's a reason he's calling their names. And how unfortunate are those people who, how unfortunate are those people who don't recognize this, Let's just leave it at that. But Abu Sufyan gets no answer, so he began to feel proud and said, "We have killed all of them." He yells, "We have killed all of them." Then Umar ibn Khattab gets mad. He has a temper. He gets really mad and couldn't contain his anger. And he said, "You are lying, O enemy of Allah. You are lying. For verily Allah has called all of them to live. And they will remain to harm you at another day." That's what's yelling. And they're hiding. They're yelling that, right? And then, now that Abu Sufyan got the confirmation that they're still alive, he said, "Today was for the battle of Badr. Today was for Badr." Right? He's yelling that. "This is our victory and our revenge for Badr." That's what he yells. "You shall find amongst the dead mutilation." He says, "You should find mutilation amongst all the dead. I did not command them to do this. But I am not angry with you either. But I'm not angry with them either. I'm not angry with it." So he's honest about it. He later becomes Muslim, right? So is Khalid ibn Walid. Then Umar responded back, "They are not the same. Our dead are in Jannah and yours are in Jahannam." Then Abu Sufyan said, "May humble be honored. who's the big idol in Quraysh, Hanbal, may he be honored, right? Then here, finally, the Prophet told him not to answer. Finally, the Prophet answers. The Prophet answers and told him, answer him back. Now he's answer him back. And then they said, how do we respond? And he said, for him to say, Allah is higher and he has more honor. Then Abu Sufyan says, we have Uzza and you don't have Uzza, which is another of their idols. And then the Prophet said to him, it's to say, Allah will protect us and you have no protector. He goes, Allah will protect us and you have no protector. Abu Sufyan also then made a promise that they will meet again 1 year from this day. I want to tell you guys one thing. There's a guy preaching in front of Geisel right now, and me, I want to first start by saying I am absolutely nothing. I go there and the guy's preaching in front of Geisel, yelling things, and he starts yelling, "The only way to be saved is through Jesus." That's what he yells out. He's yelling, "The only way to be saved is through Jesus." I couldn't even yell back to him "You're a liar. You're who are and I'm comfortable. We're all doing our thing. The guy yells, "You cannot be saved through Jesus." He's spoken a lie about Allah. This man has declared a lie upon Allah, and I couldn't say anything. And I read the Seerah. I did the Seerah in the library just now, and I read it. I listened to it, took inspiration from it, went down, heard that, and still did nothing. When you see over here that the Prophet ﷺ says they have spoken a lie, they just talk about it, that now we respond. I want you to respond now. And he says Allah is higher and has more honor. And they could die. They could literally die. Remember, it's 3,000 versus 700. Many of the 700 has died already, right? So is the 3,000. Still outnumbered. But the ratio gets bigger and bigger the more our numbers go down. I couldn't say a word to those people, but they're yelling here that Allah is higher and has more honor, giving away their location and all of that stuff. And then he says, we have Uzza and you don't have Uzza. And then they respond back, Allah will protect us and you have no protector. Me, I couldn't say anything to the Christian man. Why? I don't know. It's something I guess I have to work on. But Jazakallah khair for your time. I know it was really long. Inshallah, I'm going to probably have to post another lecture online because I didn't finish Uhud all the way. I think there's still a little bit left. I'll let you guys know in the Dawah and Tarbiyah chat. There's a paper there to see the terrain. There's a paper there to see the terrain. Does anybody have any questions? Are there any questions? All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.